Hello and welcome to Storytime with Ranger Nathan. I am, of course, Ranger Nathan, and I am a park ranger at Rosie the Riveter World War II Homefront National Historical Park. Although our visitor center is closed and I am recording from my family basement back home in Iowa practicing social distancing, that does not mean that we have to stop learning about all of the wonderful history that the National Park Service preserves and shares with the public. Today we'll be learning about the Homefront, or the experience of what it was like to live during World War II in the United States, with today's book, V for Victory. It is a part of the Homefront Heroes book series by Teresa Funk. I'd like to thank Teresa Funk, our author, for giving us permission to read Chapter 1 of V for Victory today. And we'll include Teresa's website in our post. It's got some wonderful resources for all you teachers and parents out there that are looking to help their kiddos and students learn about World War II history. Without further ado, let's start Chapter 1 of V for Victory by Teresa Funk. Chapter 1. The Contest. The Empire Theater is packed to the rafters with kids. Up in the balconies, they rain candy wrappers and spitwads down on us kids below. But when the theater manager steps out on the stage and raises his arms, we settle down. We know what's coming. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, he says into a microphone, have we got a treat for you. We're scooching to the edges of our seats now, ready to jump up. Today we bring you, all the way from Hollywood, California, everyone's favorite singing cowboy, Roy Rogers. The huge screen starts to rise and the manager hurries off stage. And there he is in the center of the stage, the king of cowboy movies himself, Roy Rogers, sitting atop his horse Trigger, who nods his head to the crowd, his front hoof pawing the ground. And the noise in the Empire is thunderous. Kids are clapping and stomping their feet. Hey Roy, they yell, hoping he'll look their way. I glance way up to the painted sky on the ceiling, half expecting it to crack down the middle. My best friend Gary is hootin' and hollerin' as loud as anyone. He's waving his white cowboy hat, which is a little too small for him now. At 12, almost 13, we're a little older than most of the kids in the theater today, and probably too old to be wearing cowboy stuff. But I've got my fake sheriff's badge pinned to my shirt and a yellow bandana tied around my neck. And Gary has his cowboy hat and a real Western type shirt with fringe that his grandmother sewed for him. It's Roy Rogers after all. Roy tips his hat to the audience and does some riding tricks on Trigger while singing a song. Then he jumps down and starts his rope tricks, which is what Gary and I came to see. That one's called the butterfly, he says as he rope spins small loops on either side of his body. And this one's the Texas skip. His loop grows larger and he jumps right through the center of it. All of us kids watch in silence as he shows us a few more tricks, then drops his rope to his side, doffs his hat, and gives us a sweeping bow. Then we all go wild again. Boy, that was something, wasn't it, Miguel? Gary says, dropping into his seat like he's just run a race. He's got a dopey grin on his face. It's not every day you see your movie idol, at least not here in San Antonio. That was really something. He's still shaking his blonde head in disbelief. I just nod. That's all we say as we listen to the hum of excited voices bouncing off the gilded walls of the movie theater. One little kid in front of us is crying into his mother's arms. I want him back, he's sobbing, and we think he means Roy, but he says, bring the horsey back. Bring the horsey back. We start to mimic him. His mother scowls at us over her shoulder, and we slouch back into our seats. A stagehand has finished sweeping the stage, though there was nothing to sweep up, from what I could tell. Could you imagine a horse like Trigger leaving a mess behind? Just never would happen. As the theater manager struts on stage again, someone throws a balled up candy wrapper at him. He scoops it up with his fist, shaking it. Okay now, kids, we've all had our fun. Now you need to settle down. I mean it. I will not tolerate any misbehavior. He says this every week, but no one ever listens to him. No smoking in the balcony. You kids give us any trouble, my boys will kick you out. He means his ushers, high school boys with flashlights who patrol the aisles, snapping their fingers at kids to get them to shut up or take their shoes off the back of the seats. We pull our feet down till they go by, then we put them back up again. But we never mouth off to the ushers, because that'll get you kicked out. They think they're big cheeses. Now listen, kids, I said listen, the theater manager shouts. I'll have a special announcement after the second feature today, so boys and girls, make sure you stay in your seats. You don't want to miss this. Gary and I grin at each other. Special announcements often meant something good. A contest, or a giveaway, or a live appearance, like today. Maybe it'll be a yo-yo contest again, Gary says. You should enter this time, Miguel. You walk the dog better than anyone. Nah, my brother Ernesto is the best. He's the one who taught me all those tricks, you know. Well, he ain't here, and he's too old anyway. You should enter. They haven't even said what it's going to be yet, Gary. Maybe the announcement's just some fluff about a war bond drive. Well, we'll find out after the show, he says as the lights dim. When the theater goes dark, we hear the crackling sound that starts at the beginning of a picture. Then a blast of loud music as a flickering image with headlines filled the screen. It's the newsreel about to start. The little kids groan. They're impatient for the Donald Duck cartoon, but we older kids tell them to shush. Most days we don't pay attention to what's going on in the war, not like the grown-ups do. We don't read the newspapers or listen to the reports on the radio, but we all watch the newsreels. I pay special attention to the footage of the planes and battleships. Gary and I can name every plane the military is using. The slick fighter planes, the heavy bombers, the bulky cargo planes. We know them by sight when they fly over our city from the nearby bases, so it's always exciting to see them in battle on the newsreels. Maybe some of those pilots trained right here in Texas, and now, like Ernesto, they're over there fighting the Nazis and the Japanese. After the newsreel comes the cartoon, then the serial. Now we're finishing up the main feature. An old Roy Rogers picture in honor of his visit, but I've got to go to the bathroom. Bad. That's always a problem on these long afternoons, and the trick is to time it right so you don't miss the best parts of the show, but I did not do that today. Doggone it, I say to Gary. Tell me what happens. I double time it up the aisle and down to the basement bathrooms. When I'm finished, I'm tempted to run next door to the drugstore and buy some more popcorn, but they're about to get to the part where the big stagecoach chase scene happens, and I do not want to miss that. After the second feature finally wraps up, many of the kids get up to leave, but the theater manager comes back on stage waving his arms. He tells us to sit down. We're not about to do that again. We've been sitting for hours. This is it, Gary says. It better be good. It doesn't sound good at first. The manager's announcing a scrap metal drive to help the war effort, and that's no big deal. The theater sponsors scrap metal or rubber matinees sometimes where you get in for free if you bring 2 pounds of rubber or 25 pounds of scrap metal, like old pots and pans, which the government melts down to build planes and tanks and stuff. Oh, but wait, the manager is saying. This isn't your ordinary scrap matinee. This is a contest, and it's going to last 3 weeks. At the end of the 3 weeks, the kid who brings in the most scrap metal is not only going to get a free pass to the movies, but a $20 prize. $20? Do you know what we could get for that kind of dough? Gary says. The movies are over, and we've left the theater and stopped at the soda fountain in Somer's drugstore. We're sipping 5-cent Coca-Colas, one of our favorite traditions after the matinees. You can't beat a Coke, we like to say, just like the ad. $20, Gary says, letting out a long, low whistle. I tip my glass and slurp the bottom clean with my straw. If I had $20, I'd buy me a bicycle, I say. Then I could get a paper route. My brother had a paper route, Gary says. He quit it. Why? Well, it sounded kind of fun at first, you know. You get a bike with those saddlebags over the back wheel, all piled up with newspapers. Then you ride around, tossing papers onto people's porches. But then you got to go by their house every week and try to catch them at home to pay the bill. And if they're not home, you just got to come back. And sometimes they are home, but they tell you to scram anyway. But what really got him was when it rained. Lots of the streets on his route weren't paved, you know, so he was pushing that heavy bike loaded down with papers through muddy streets. That was it for him. I slurped some more, even though all the Coke in the glass is long gone by now. I just like the sound. Yeah, well, I'd still like a bike. Maybe I could use it to make deliveries for our store. My parents would pay me even more. What would you do with $20? Buy as many model airplanes as I could. But you already own just about every one ever made. Shows what you know. They've got new warplanes coming out. We better go, I say. It's getting late. At the bus stop, we wait our turn as soldiers and sailors in uniform offer help to women carrying shopping bags and packages from the downtown stores. A couple of the older boys from our neighborhood line up behind us. When the bus driver motions us to hurry on, one of the boys pushes past and says, "Out of my way, cue ball." That's a nickname I've heard around the neighborhood for years because my mom keeps my hair so short I'm nearly as bald as a cue ball in a game of pool. It saves us money, she says, because we don't need to pay the barber as often for a haircut. But I hate the nickname. I hate the haircut too. Makes my ears stick out even farther. The bus is so crowded we have to stand. Luckily, the older boys move toward the center. I hear them laughing. I hope it's not at me. They get off at a stop well short of our neighborhood, and I wonder what they're up to. But as soon as they leave, I find that I can concentrate once again. We ride back to the east side. I come up with a brilliant plan. Hey, Gary, I say, what if we team up? We'll both get as much scrap metal as we can, but then only one of us will turn it in. Then we share the $20. I'm sure we would win. But if we split the money, you can't get your bike. I hadn't thought of that. What if we bought the bike, and then we shared it? You'd get it for a week, and then me. Gary scratches his head, considering. I know he's thinking about those model airplanes. Come on, Gary. It'll be fun. I'll even let you have the bike for the first week. Oh, all right, he says. I'll meet you tomorrow after church and we can start scouring the neighborhood. We'll start at the junkyard. Nah, that's too picked over. Every kid on the block is going to head there. We need to think of places no one's thought of before. Like where? I don't know. Come by the store and we'll figure it out. Gary waves goodbye to me at the bus stop. As I'm passing the hardware store, a plane roars overhead. I glance up. B-24, I say. It's not hard to spot the silhouette of that big bomber. When my gaze comes back down, I catch a glimpse of the stand-up clock outside the window of the store. It's almost 7 o'clock. I've stayed much later than I was supposed to. I'm going to be in deep Dutch when I get home, which means in trouble. Thank you so much for joining us for the first chapter of V for Victory by Teresa Funk. Once again, thank you, Teresa, for allowing us permission to share one of your Homefront Heroes books. Be sure to check out her website for more resources on how to teach your students and kiddos about World War II history. And I encourage all of you, especially our junior rangers out there, to keep reading and keep learning during this time. Bye. Thanks for joining.